Chosen one, pause right here. Let the noise fall away for a moment, because what is rising around you is not ordinary air. It is the breath of God moving over a life that has done what most people would never dare to do. You, the one who kept going when others quit. The one who held faith when logic said to let go. The one who carried responsibility, sorrow, and hope all at the same time without asking for applause. Heaven has been watching you far longer than you realize. Beloved soul, feel this. There is a quiet pride in the heart of God when He looks at you. A holy admiration that wraps itself around every step you've taken in obedience, every sacrifice you made in silence, every moment you chose integrity, even when no one would have known the difference. Listen to me. You didn't survive because you were lucky. You survived because you were chosen. And today, the veil is lifting over something you were never meant to walk past without understanding. This message is not encouragement. It is revelation. You've wondered why your path cost you so much. Why you carried weight that others dropped easily. Why God asked things of you that He didn't ask of the people around you. And somewhere inside, there's been this quiet ache. Does God even notice what I've done? Does He see how hard I fought? Yes, more than you know. And He is more proud than you realize. You did what no one else around you was willing to do. You walked a narrow road. You honored a calling when it felt like it was crushing you. You protected your heart, your purpose, your purity, your integrity, even when life tried to harden you. But hear me, something greater is coming. A breakthrough season tied to your obedience is forming. A destiny alignment is already moving in your direction. And before this message ends, I'm going to reveal why heaven has been silent and why that silence is breaking now. You feel that shift, don't you? Before we go deeper, chosen one, if your spirit is already stirring, if something inside you knows this word is touching the truth you've lived, don't wait. Subscribe now so you never again miss a word that heaven sends to strengthen your steps. This isn't about growing a channel. It's about keeping you aligned with what God is unfolding over your life. Now, breathe, because the next part will explain what God saw in you that no one else recognized. Because chosen one, the very thing you thought disqualified you, is the very thing heaven has been applauding in secret. You carried burdens that were never sized for human shoulders, yet you kept walking as if quitting wasn't an option. And I know you don't brag about it. You don't announce it. You don't even let yourself cry the way your heart aches to. You simply wipe your face, steady your breath, and step into another day like a warrior no one ever trained. But let's tell the truth you never speak aloud. There were nights when you lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering why your life demanded so much more strength than you felt you had. There were mornings when you had to force yourself to get up because something inside you whispered, "If people knew how exhausted I really am." You've been carrying emotional bruises from battles no one even knows happened. And the part that hurts the most? You did the right thing when no one was watching. You stayed loyal when others left. You protected people who would never have defended you in return. You stayed pure when temptation tried to offer you shortcuts. You chose integrity over convenience, truth over popularity, obedience over applause. Most people would have folded under the pressure. Most people would have taken the easy way out, but not you. And listen, heaven noticed. The spiritual warfare you faced wasn't random. The destiny delay you felt wasn't incompetence. The financial blockage you kept pushing through wasn't failure. They were all signs that you are someone the enemy fears. Because you did what no one else around you had the courage to do. You stayed faithful. You didn't know it then, but every quiet sacrifice you made has been accumulating in the courts of heaven. Every time you chose love over bitterness, angels recorded it. Every moment you swallowed pain so your family wouldn't worry. Heaven bowed its head in awe. You weren't weak. You were becoming the kind of vessel God can trust with generational blessing, with abundance, with divine reversal, with breakthrough timing that shifts entire bloodlines. But the struggle has been deeper than people realize, hasn't it? There's a loneliness you carry that has nothing to do with being alone. It's the loneliness of always being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who fixes everything but has no one to fall apart with. There were moments when your hope ran so thin, you started to wonder if God was disappointed in you, or worse, if he had forgotten you. You kept asking silently, "Why does it feel like I'm doing everything right, yet nothing is moving?" You blamed yourself for delays that were never your fault. You questioned your worth because blessings seemed to pass over your head and land effortlessly on people who never worked as hard as you did. And somewhere inside, there's this wound, the one caused by people who should have supported you, should have celebrated you, should have recognized your worth. But instead, they ignored you, or used you, or assumed your strength meant you didn't need love. You tried to shrug it off. You tried to pray it away. But it lingered, because it wasn't just disappointment, it was betrayal. And betrayal from those you trusted creates a crack in the soul that takes more than time to heal. It takes revelation. It takes understanding. It takes divine intervention. And beloved soul, here is the truth you've never said out loud. There were days you wanted to give up on yourself, not because you lacked faith, but because the pressure felt too heavy for one heart to carry. Yet even then, you didn't break. You bent, yes. You trembled, yes. But you did not break. And that's why you're dangerous in the spirit. That's why the warfare intensified. That's why the enemy tried so hard to exhaust you emotionally, financially, spiritually. Because if you ever realized how proud God is of you, if you ever realized how close you are to the moment of divine reversal, if you ever realized that your obedience has triggered a shift in heaven, you would step into a level of abundance, clarity, and authority that hell has been trying to block for years. Listen to me. The weight you've been feeling lately isn't depression, it's transition. It's the spiritual pressure that comes before breakthrough timing. It's the stretching that happens right before destiny alignment. It's the trembling of old cycles breaking open so a new blueprint can fall into place. But I need to take you somewhere deeper, into the part of your story that even you haven't fully understood yet. Because beneath the struggle you can see is another layer you've only felt in your bones. The part where heaven has been watching you pass tests you didn't know were tests, and keeping score in ways you never imagined. Because what's coming next in your life requires you to understand something you were never told, something that will explain every delay, every wound, every lonely night, every quiet sacrifice. And it begins with the moment when, because chosen one, the very thing you thought disqualified you is the very thing heaven has been applauding in secret. You carried burdens that were never sized for human shoulders, yet you kept walking as if quitting wasn't an option. And I know you don't brag about it. You don't announce it. You don't even let yourself cry the way your heart aches to. You simply wipe your face, steady your breath, and step into another day like a warrior no one ever trained. But let's tell the truth you never speak aloud. There were nights when you lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering why your life demanded so much more strength than you felt you had. There were mornings when you had to force yourself to get up because something inside you whispered, "If people knew how exhausted I really am." You've been carrying emotional bruises from battles no one even knows happened. And the part that hurts the most? You did the right thing when no one was watching. You stayed loyal when others left. You protected people who would never have defended you in return. You stayed pure when temptation tried to offer you shortcuts. You chose integrity over convenience, truth over popularity, obedience over applause. Most people would have folded under the pressure. Most people would have taken the easy way out. But not you. And listen, heaven noticed. The spiritual warfare you faced wasn't random. The destiny delay you felt wasn't incompetence. The financial blockage you kept pushing through wasn't failure. They were all signs that you are someone the enemy fears, because you did what no one else around you had the courage to do. You stayed faithful. You didn't know it then, but every quiet sacrifice you made has been accumulating in the courts of heaven. Every time you chose love over bitterness, angels recorded it. Every moment you swallowed pain so your family wouldn't worry, heaven bowed its head in awe. You weren't weak. You were becoming the kind of vessel God can trust with generational blessing, with abundance, with divine reversal, with breakthrough timing that shifts entire bloodlines. But the struggle has been deeper than people realize, hasn't it? There's a loneliness you carry that has nothing to do with being alone. It's the loneliness of always being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who fixes everything but has no one to fall apart with. There were moments when your hope ran so thin, you started to wonder if God was disappointed in you, or worse, if he had forgotten you. You kept asking silently, why does it feel like I'm doing everything right, yet nothing is moving? You blamed yourself for delays that were never your fault. You questioned your worth because blessings seemed to pass over your head and land effortlessly on people who never worked as hard as you did. And somewhere inside, there's this wound, the one caused by people who should have supported you, should have celebrated you, should have recognized your worth. But instead, they ignored you, or used you, or assumed your strength meant you didn't need love. You tried to shrug it off. You tried to pray it away. But it lingered, because it wasn't just disappointment. It was betrayal. And betrayal from those you trusted creates a crack in the soul that takes more than time to heal. It takes revelation. It takes understanding. It takes divine intervention. And beloved soul, here is the truth you've never said out loud. There were days you wanted to give up on yourself, not because you lacked faith, but because the pressure felt too heavy for one heart to carry. Yet even then, you didn't break. You bent, yes. You trembled, yes. But you did not break. And that's why you're dangerous in the spirit. That's why the warfare intensified. That's why the enemy tried so hard to exhaust you emotionally, financially, spiritually. Because if you ever realized how proud God is of you, if you ever realized how close you are to the moment of divine reversal, if you ever realized that your obedience has triggered a shift in heaven, you would step into a level of abundance, clarity, and authority that hell has been trying to block for years. Listen to me. The weight you've been feeling lately isn't depression. It's transition. It's the spiritual pressure that comes before breakthrough timing. It's the stretching that happens right before destiny alignment. It's the trembling of old cycles breaking open so a new blueprint can fall into place. But I need to take you somewhere deeper, into the part of your story that even you haven't fully understood yet. Because beneath the struggle you can see is another layer you've only felt in your bones. The part where heaven has been watching you pass tests you didn't know were tests, and keeping score in ways you never imagined. Because what's coming next in your life requires you to understand something you were never told. Something that will explain every delay, every wound, every lonely night, every quiet sacrifice. And it begins with the moment when you first realized you weren't like the people you were born around. Not in a better than way. In a why does my heart work different from theirs way. In a why do I care about things they laugh at way. You were still young when it started. You noticed the tension in the room when you spoke truth they didn't want to hear. You saw the way eyes rolled when you asked questions that went deeper than everyone else was comfortable going. You learned early that silence kept the peace, but it broke your spirit. You became the black sheep without trying, the one who felt too much, the one who thought too deeply, the one who cared about justice in a family that preferred secrets. You were the one asking, why are we pretending this is normal? Why do we act like that didn't hurt? Why is no one talking about what's really going on? And instead of being thanked for your honesty, you got labeled difficult, too sensitive, always making things dramatic. So you learned to swallow your discernment. You learned to laugh along with the very behaviors that quietly wounded you. You learned to sit at tables where your soul did not fit, because the alternative was being completely alone. But even when you tried to blend in, something in you could not. You felt the spiritual warfare in the room when everyone else called it just a bad vibe. You sensed the generational curse in the family patterns that others just shrugged off as, that's how we are. You watched cycles of addiction, poverty, broken marriages, emotional abuse, and something inside you screamed, this is not how it's supposed to be. You didn't have the language back then for destiny, alignment, or divine purpose. You just knew in your bones that the way your family handled pain was not how God wanted it to stay. You knew the sneaky financial blockage you saw in your bloodline wasn't just bad budgeting. You knew the anger, the gossip, the silent treatments, the unspoken traumas were chains. And chains are meant to be broken, not inherited. But here's the part that cuts the deepest. You tried to help. You tried to love them into healing. You tried to speak in gentler words, show them a different way, bring light into rooms that had only ever known shadows. And instead of saying thank you, they turned the spotlight on you. Suddenly, you were the problem. You were too holy, too spiritual, acting like you're better than us, when all you were trying to do was stop the bleeding. You became the family's emotional trash can. They came to you when they needed advice, comfort, money, prayer, support. They called you in crisis, cried on your shoulder, leaned on your strength, and then mocked your faith once the storm passed. You know that sting. They say they don't believe in spiritual warfare, but somehow they only find you when their life is collapsing. They say you're doing too much with this God stuff, but somehow it's your phone that rings when the hospital calls. You've been the quiet intercessor of your bloodline, and most of them don't even know you've been fighting for them in the spirit at 3 a.m. You've sat in your room, hands shaking, whispering, God, please don't let this curse hit my children. Please don't let this addiction repeat. Please break this spirit of poverty off my family. You've begged heaven to rewrite a story that everyone else seems content to keep repeating. And yet, in the middle of all that, you still feel like the odd one out, the misunderstood one, the one who is too much for the people who gave you your last name. That's not an accident. That's not a personality flaw. That's a calling. You are not just the black sheep. You are the first lamb that refused to walk quietly into the slaughter of, this is just how our family is. You are the one who did what no one before you had the courage to do. You told the truth in a bloodline that survived on denial. You chose healing in a family that glorified endurance. You started asking for emotional honesty in a lineage that only knew survival. And heaven took note. But being that person has cost you. It has cost you belonging. It has cost you peace at family gatherings. It has cost you nights of crying in the bathroom so no one would hear. It has cost you the simple comfort of feeling normal. You've wondered, why did God make me like this? Why can I see what they can't see? Why do I feel pain in rooms where everyone else seems fine? Here is why. Because while they saw you as the black sheep, God saw you as the first breaker, the pattern breaker, the gate opener. the one who would carry the ancestral burden and turn it into generational blessing, generational wealth, and generational healing. And that weight has been so heavy at times that your own heart whispered, "I didn't ask for this. I just wanted to be loved like everyone else." Listen to me. If any part of this is pressing on your spirit, if you know you were born into a story you were never meant to repeat, I want you to do something bold. Right here, quietly but publicly, write this in the comments. I did what no one would. You're not just typing words. You're sealing a spiritual contract. You're declaring to heaven, I accept that I am the one who chose the harder path so those after me can walk easier. Because that's where the bridge appears. The moment you realize you were not just randomly different, you were divinely appointed to carry a weight that goes back generations. This is where we step into the second layer of your story. The part that explains why God is more proud of you than you've ever imagined. The part that heaven saw long before you were born into that house, that city, that family name. You weren't just placed in that bloodline. You were sent. Sent as a living interruption to a generational curse. Sent as a human roadblock against the same cycles replaying over and over. Sent as walking proof that divine intervention is stronger than DNA. And with that sending came a burden that didn't start with you. The ancestral burden. You felt it, even if you never had language for it. That sense that you're fighting battles older than your own lifetime. That you're paying off emotional debts you never created. That you're having to choose forgiveness in situations where the wound started 3-4 generations back. You look at your family tree and you don't just see names. You see patterns. The same kind of relationship over and over. The same type of financial blockage. The same spiritual coldness. The same emotional distance. The same sudden health crises, right when someone is about to step into breakthrough timing. You notice the uncle who was gifted but never stepped into purpose. The grandmother who was strong but never healed. The parent who had dreams but surrendered them to fear, addiction, or control. You see brilliance buried under trauma. You see callings aborted by compromise. And somewhere deep in your spirit, this thought whispers, if I don't change this, no one will. So you started making different choices. You said no to what everyone else said yes to. You refused to normalize abuse just because it was familiar. You decided that emotional healing mattered more than keeping up appearances. You started learning about boundaries, about self-respect, about spiritual awakening, about aligning your life with God's divine purpose instead of family expectation. And every time you chose differently, the warfare intensified. Because when a chosen one steps out of agreement with a generational curse, that curse does not leave quietly. It fights. It screams. It shakes everything around you. That's why you felt life get harder when you started pursuing healing. That's why certain family members suddenly turned on you when you set even small boundaries. That's why you saw a spike in confusion, conflict, and chaos when you said, I will not raise my children in this atmosphere. You are not just fighting for yourself. You are fighting for people who may never say thank you. You are carrying the burden of generations that numbed themselves instead of facing the truth. You are paying the cost to shift your bloodline from survival to abundance, from spiritual blindness to spiritual awakening, from aimless wandering to destiny alignment. This is why God is proud. Because you chose the hard road. You chose to be the hinge between what was and what will be. You chose to stand in the gap and say, the dysfunction stops with me. The poverty stops with me. The emotional coldness stops with me. The spiritual apathy stops with me. And heaven has watched you do this while still battling your own self-doubt, while still wrestling with the imposter shadow that whispers, who do you think you are? to break what generations accepted? Who are you to talk about wealth mindset when your account is still fighting financial blockage? Who are you to believe for elevation when your life still looks so ordinary? Yet even with those whispers, you kept showing up, you kept praying, you kept learning, you kept stretching, you kept choosing to believe that if God asked you to stand in this place, then He must see something in you that you struggle to see in yourself. And in the unseen realm, something has been happening, slowly, quietly, relentlessly. The old agreements your family made with fear, with lack, with silence, with compromise, have been cracking every time you chose obedience. Every time you apologized first. Every time you refused to gossip. Every time you forgave instead of retaliating. Every time you asked God to bless the very people who misunderstood you. You thought you were just trying to survive. But heaven watched you as a warrior rewriting the spiritual contracts of an entire bloodline. This is why your life has felt like such a strange mix of delay and pressure. Because the breakthrough timing attached to you is not small. It is not limited to your personal comfort. It is connected to children not yet born, to doors not yet opened, to territories not yet reclaimed. You are the generational pivot. You are the divine reversal in human form. And yet, there is still a question hanging in the air around your life. A question heaven is getting ready to answer. A question you've been too afraid to even fully form in words, because if you did, you'd have to confront how tired you really are, how close you've come to giving up, how badly you want to know if all of this has been worth it. If God actually plans to answer you in the land of the living, and He does, chosen one, hear this with the full weight of heaven behind it. None of what you endured was random. None of it. Not the loneliness that made you question your worth. Not the financial strain that hit you right before every opportunity. Not the betrayal that shattered your trust. Not the exhaustion that made your bones feel older than your age. Not the spiritual warfare that hunted you in dreams, in relationships, in the quiet corners of your mind. These were not punishments. These were not delays. These were not signs that God forgot you. These were initiations. You were being trained in ways that ordinary people would collapse under. You were being shaped for a level of elevation most people will never reach. You were being strengthened for blessings that require spiritual weight, emotional maturity, and unshakable discernment. Listen, there is a reason God didn't let certain relationships work. There is a reason money slipped through your fingers no matter how hard you tried. There is a reason the people you trusted hurt you in ways you never expected. There is a reason every shortcut closed on you, because you are not being prepared for an ordinary life. Heaven has been running you through an elite training program, one tailored for people marked for influence, abundance, legacy, wealth, mindset, and kingdom-level responsibility. You had to learn loyalty before leadership. You had to learn humility before honor. You had to learn spiritual warfare before breakthrough. You had to learn emotional healing before elevation. You had to learn to stand alone, because the realm you're stepping into cannot be carried by someone who still needs validation to breathe. Chosen one, you survived what was meant to destroy you, and survival is not your medal. It is your qualification. This is why the pressure has been so relentless. This is why the battle intensified when you started healing. This is why the enemy threw everything at your identity, your finances, your confidence, your mental stability, because heaven was preparing you for double restoration, double blessing, double authority, double provision, double glory. You didn't just pass tests. You endured the forging process of someone destined to flip entire bloodlines into abundance and generational wealth. So, hear this clearly. You have endured enough, and the suffering you survived has now become the proof of the glory you're stepping into. But before I move on, I need to ask you something that only your spirit can answer. If you believe God is getting ready to restore to you double everything the enemy tried to steal, if you believe the delay was preparation, not denial, if you believe you were chosen for more than survival, then tap subscribe and like right now. Not as a favor to me, but as a prophetic act, as a declaration that you are ready to step into the season heaven wrote for you from the beginning. Because now the story shifts. You have carried the weight of struggle long enough. You have walked through fire long enough. You have fought alone long enough. And God is speaking over you. You have endured enough. Now it is time to strike back. The battle you've been fighting ends tonight. And what comes next is not more pain, but revelation. Because God has given me the most precise and divinely revealed strategies. The framework, the blueprint, the spiritual weapons, the pathway, the set of instructions that will help you overturn this battle starting tonight. And the first of these is not a single action, but a shift in posture, a turning of your inner world toward the realm where victory is first won. Because chosen one, the battle you've been fighting hasn't been external, it's been fought in the unseen places of your mind, your habits, your boundaries, your faith. And God is now placing in your hands 3 divine protocols that unlock authority, clarity, and breakthrough in the very areas where you've been most wounded. The first strategy, the seal of inner court authority. This is where everything begins. For too long, you fought spiritual warfare as if you were asking permission to win. You prayed from exhaustion, not authority. You stepped into battles carrying shame from old wounds, fear from old betrayals, and doubt from old disappointments. But hear this, God is restoring your inner court identity. You are not a beggar at the gate. You are a child in the throne room. From this moment forward, when you pray, do not pray as someone hoping heaven will hear you. Stand still, inhale deeply, and say out loud, I speak from the inner court of God's will. This is not poetry. It shifts your spiritual frequency. It reminds your soul that you are in divine alignment, not spiritual guesswork. Do this immediately when warfare rises in your mind, when panic hits, when financial breakthrough feels blocked, when old generational curses try to whisper their way back in. Speak with calm authority, not yelling, not begging. Say, what God has marked for me cannot be stolen, stopped, or delayed. This act breaks the psychological grip of fear and recenters you in your spiritual identity. Because the enemy never feared your talent, he feared the day you would remember your rank. The second strategy, the boundaries of holy fire. Chosen one, listen carefully. Your heart has been too open to too many people for too long. The very compassion God placed in you has been used as a landing ground for spiritual leeches, emotional vampires, and those who took from you without ever pouring back. This is why you felt drained. This is why your clarity of purpose has been foggy. This is why your destiny acceleration seemed to stall when you got close to certain individuals. Because purity without boundaries becomes vulnerability. Here is the divine protocol God is giving you now. Before every conversation, every visit, every phone call, ask the Holy Spirit one simple question. Is this person an assignment or a distraction? If you feel heaviness in your chest, a tightening in your spirit, or a sudden shift in your peace, that is your answer. You must stop overriding these alerts. You must stop explaining away discomfort. This is spiritual intelligence. This is wealth mindset for the soul, knowing where your emotional currency is being invested. And hear this clearly. Move people to the distance your spirit chooses, not the distance their demands insist on. Do not announce it. Do not explain it. Create space with quiet strength. Because when your boundaries strengthen, your blessings stop leaking. And when your circle shrinks, your calling becomes louder. The third strategy. The midnight blueprint of reversal. This protocol will feel strange at first, but heaven is assigning it to you for a reason. You have been attacked the most in the hours when no one sees you, midnight to early morning. That is when the enemy whispers doubt. That is when the wounds replay. That is when the fear of failure, the fear of being forgotten, the fear of never receiving your restoration tries to take root. But this is also the hour when destinies are reversed, when angelic intervention is strongest, when divine alignment becomes accessible in a way daytime distractions do not allow. Here is what you must do. Before you sleep, place your hand over your heart and say, "Every plan written in darkness against my life is overturned by the light of God." Do not rush the words. Feel them move through you. You will begin to sense old agreements breaking, old timelines dissolving, old fears losing power. Then, as you lie down, give heaven permission to rearrange what your mind cannot. Say, "God, correct the paths I cannot see." This unlocks divine intervention while you rest. This allows financial breakthrough, emotional healing, and spiritual elevation to be released without resistance. This turns your sleep into a battleground where God fights for you, not a place where the enemy torments you. And when you wake, when the quiet morning air touches your spirit, you will begin to notice that your mornings feel different, lighter, almost as if heaven rearranged the room while you slept. That is your sign. Your spirit is ready for the next phase of divine instruction. The fourth strategy, the circle of silence. Chosen one, this is where many fall. Not because they lack vision, but because they leak vision. Your next season requires a level of confidentiality you have never practiced before. You must understand that premature exposure is one of the enemy's most effective forms of spiritual warfare. Every time you shared a new idea, a new dream, a new direction with the wrong person, the air shifted, your momentum stalled, your confidence weakened, your divine alignment began to wobble. Why? Because not everyone around you carries the spiritual maturity to steward what God is birthing in you. There are fake Josephs in your life, smiling faces with jealous hearts who cannot clap unless they are clapping for themselves. So here is what you must do. Keep your next move silent. Do not announce the business idea. Do not share the relocation plan. Do not reveal the healing God is doing in you. Let your progress be invisible until it becomes undeniable. And if your spirit agrees with this instruction, write in the comments, "My silence is my shield." This declaration seals the boundary in the spiritual realm and begins the restructuring of your circle. Because where God is taking you, privacy is not secrecy, it is protection. The fifth strategy, the altar of praise. Chosen one, you must hear this clearly. Praise is not music. Praise is not singing. Praise is a weapon. And in a season where spiritual pressure increases, the enemy's goal is to suffocate your gratitude, silence your worship, and turn your focus inward until all you see is lack, delay, and disappointment. But praise shifts atmospheres. Praise triggers divine intervention. Praise confuses the enemy because it announces that you trust God even before the blessing manifests. Here is how to engage this strategy. When anxiety rises, put on a worship song not to distract yourself, but to invite God into the moment. When you feel the weight of generational curses trying to sit on your chest, whisper, "God, you are good." When financial breakthrough feels impossible, stand up, lift your hands, and say, "I praise you for what I cannot see yet." End quote. This act reprograms your environment. It releases spiritual oxygen, It aligns your heart with destiny acceleration, and it signals to heaven that you are ready to walk in faith, not fear. Because praise is not for when the battle ends. Praise is how the battle is won. The sixth strategy, the Sabbath reset. This one will confront you deeply, but it is the one your spirit has been crying out for without words. You have been overworking, overgiving, overthinking, overstretching for far too long. Your nervous system is exhausted. Your spirit is overloaded. Your mind is running on fragments. And although you keep praying for clarity of purpose, you cannot hear divine instruction because your soul has been drowned in noise. God is commanding you into rest, not laziness, not avoidance, but holy rest. One full day each week where you stop striving. No emails, no emotional labor, no multitasking, no productive distractions. This is not optional. This is spiritual technology. Sabbath recharges your anointing. Sabbath resets your intuition. Sabbath reopens the pathways where prophetic instruction flows. When you honor rest, you break the internal generational curse of burnout that plagued your family. You give your spirit a clean table where God can lay out the next blueprint, the next instruction, the next elevation. And as you begin honoring this rhythm, you will feel your energy return, your mind sharpen, your peace deepen, and something else, something subtle but powerful will begin to rise, preparing you for what heaven is about to reveal next. Because, chosen one, even with all this revelation stirring in your spirit, there is something heaven needs you to understand. Victory is not granted to the talented. Breakthrough is not reserved for the emotional. Elevation is not handed to those who feel inspired for a moment. It belongs to the consistent. You can know every mystery, every tool, every spiritual weapon, and still fall back into the same cycles if you only apply them for 2 days and drift on the third. This is where most chosen ones stumble, not from lack of wisdom, but from lack of rhythm. Not because God didn't speak, but because the fire cooled too quickly. You've lived this before. You push hard for a week, your spirit ignites, the atmosphere shifts, and then the pressure comes. Distraction rises, fatigue whispers, old wounds reopen, and suddenly everything that felt clear becomes foggy again. Hear me, the enemy does not need to destroy you. He only needs to make you inconsistent. Empires collapse not because their foundations were weak, but because their builders stopped showing up every day. Destinies derail not because God changed his mind, but because discipline faded. Spiritual authority evaporates not because heaven withdrew, but because the heart drifted. This is why you cannot rely on your own strength. Human willpower burns out fast. Human motivation rises like fire and falls like ash. Human discipline collapses under spiritual warfare, generational pressure, and emotional storms. You need the Holy Spirit to sustain what you begin. You need divine breath filling your lungs when discouragement tightens your chest. You need heaven's endurance when your mind says, "I'm tired." You need supernatural consistency that does not depend on mood, energy, or circumstances. So, each day, even for a moment, ask the Spirit to carry you. Ask Him to steady your thoughts, guard your boundaries, protect your atmosphere, and keep your heart aligned with destiny acceleration. Your strength got you here. God's strength will carry you the rest of the way. Because now, you stand at the threshold. All these weapons have now been placed in your hands, but there is one final key that activates them. Without this key, nothing ignites. That key is the sealing prayer. We are about to step into the Holy of Holies. Prepare your heart, beloved. Let the noise inside you settle like dust in a sunbeam. Let your breath slow. Let your shoulders drop. We are stepping into holy space now, and heaven bends close when you do. Before we speak another word, change your posture. Place one hand over your heart, yes, right there. Feel its rhythm. Feel the life God protected, even on the days you wished it would pause. If you can, gently close your eyes. If your spirit feels willing, lift your free hand just slightly, as if offering something invisible back to the one who formed you. This is not performance. This is alignment, because chosen one, we are about to address the Lord of hosts himself, the commander of angels, the one who watched every battle you endured, every betrayal you survived, every night you whispered, "God, please hold me together." And he did. He always did. So now, in this breath-soft silence, let us speak to him, Lord of hosts. Thank you for seeing every unseen war this chosen one has fought. Thank you for never abandoning them in the pressure, the confusion, the delay. Thank you for the way your hand protected their mind when fear tried to invade, protected their heart when betrayal tried to harden it, protected their purpose when darkness tried to swallow it whole. You have been faithful. You have been present. You have been the quiet strength that held them upright when their own strength collapsed. And now, Father, as they stand here with a hand over their heart, I ask you to draw near, closer than breath, closer than memory, closer than every wound that once tried to define them. Let your presence rest on them like warm light. Let your peace settle on their shoulders like a mantle. Let your voice reach into the places where human comfort could never touch. Lord of hosts, you know what they endured. You know how many times they cried in secret so no one would worry. You know every silent sacrifice, every lonely night, every burden they carried without applause, without witness, without relief. And yet, they stayed faithful, they stayed soft, they stayed yours. So now, in this sacred moment, I lift their life before you. I lift their heart. I lift their timeline. I lift their destiny. I lift every place where they feel tired, unsure, delayed, or unprotected. Father, breathe on them. Let your light touch the corners of their mind where fear once lived. Let your strength wrap around the parts of them that still tremble. Let your reassurance be the answer to every doubt they never had the courage to voice. And now, as we continue in this holy space, the next words spoken will begin to shift things in the spirit. And Father, as your presence settles, I feel you pulling me deeper into intercession for this chosen one. So I step into that authority now, and I speak what heaven is already stirring. Asterisk, asterisk, Lord of hosts. I decree the breaker anointing over their life right now. Asterisk, asterisk. Every generational curse that stalked their bloodline, every chain that wrapped around their family story, every addiction, pattern, limitation, or inherited warfare that tried to glue itself to their destiny. Asterisk, asterisk, I break it in your name. Asterisk, asterisk, I command cycles of poverty, abandonment, betrayal, and delay to shatter under the weight of your glory. Let the curses spoken over their parents, grandparents, and ancestors dissolve like smoke in your fire. Let the agreements made in ignorance be revoked. Let the spirits that claimed legal ground lose all authority. Right now, by your power, I decree a full severing, a total collapse of every dark structure built against their lineage, and the rise of a new legacy beginning in them. And Father, as the chains break, I feel the need to raise something, asterisk, asterisk, around asterisk, asterisk them, not just within them, asterisk, asterisk. So now I speak forth the divine hedge, asterisk, asterisk. God, place a wall of fire around this chosen one, a hedge taller than fear, thicker than darkness, brighter than any attack sent by the enemy. Let no weapon formed in shadows cross the boundary you are drawing now. Guard their home, guard their children, guard their finances, guard their sleep, guard their ministry, their mind, their purpose. Let every arrow shot at them in the night be consumed before it reaches their doorstep. Let every curse spoken in secret wither before it touches their atmosphere. Let the hedge stand as an unbroken circle of holy fire, and let every demon that approaches it tremble and flee. But Lord, I also feel the torment that has been waged in their thoughts, the whispers, the lies, the quiet accusations in the mind that don't come from you. So now, with full spiritual authority, asterisk, asterisk, I decree the enemy silencer, asterisk, asterisk, every voice of fear be silenced, every voice of condemnation be silenced, every voice telling them they are unworthy, forgotten, behind, or failing be silenced. I bind the lying spirit that speaks in their weakest moments. I shut the mouth of every demonic voice that tries to imitate their own thoughts. I command clarity to rise. I command truth to take dominion. I command the Holy Spirit's whisper to become louder than every counterfeit sound. Let their mind become a sanctuary again. Let peace take the seat where anxiety once ruled. Let confidence grow where doubt once lingered. Let your voice, Lord, be the only voice their heart responds to as we continue deeper into this holy moment. And Lord, as your peace settles over their mind like a warm cloak, I feel you drawing me deeper still, into the places where restoration must now touch what was stolen. So, in your authority, I decree the restoration of years. Father, every year the enemy devoured, every season lost to betrayal, every month swallowed by depression, every opportunity blocked by fear or sabotage, I command it to return sevenfold according to your word. Let stolen time be redeemed. Let wasted seasons be resurrected. Let delayed blessings accelerate. What was taken in childhood, restore it. What was lost in relationships, restore it. What was drained through financial warfare, restore it. Let the years they thought were too late become the very years you crown with purpose. Let their latter days outshine everything they thought they missed. I speak a divine reversal into their timeline, and I loose a fresh wind of destiny to overtake every place where loss once had the final word. And Father, in the Spirit I see doors meant for them standing closed, not because they are unqualified, but because someone lied about their worth, someone withheld opportunity, someone underestimated the oil on their life, someone dismissed the purity of their heart. So now I call forth the Joseph anointing over this chosen one. I decree sudden promotion, unusual favor, unexpected recognition. Let their name rise in rooms they have not yet entered. Let leaders, supervisors, decision makers feel a pull toward them without knowing why. Let the overlooked become the indispensable. Let the last become the one lifted. Just as Joseph was elevated from the prison to the palace in a single moment, I speak destiny acceleration over them. Let paperwork be approved. Let interviews be remembered. Let business proposals be highlighted. Let divine partnerships locate them with precision. Let the realm of influence you designed for them begin to open like morning light breaking through a long night. And yet, Lord, before they walk through new doors, I sense you turning inward again, toward the tender places in their heart, toward the wounds that still whisper, toward the memories that still sting when silence grows too long. So I decree the emotional surgery by the hands of the Holy Spirit. God, reach into the places they hide even from themselves. Remove the bitterness that secretly hardened edges around their joy. Pull out the splinters of past relationships, the betrayals, the dismissals, the manipulation, the abandonment. Cut away the lies they absorbed as children. Cut away the shame they carried in adulthood. Cut away the false identities spoken over them by broken people. Let every infection of the heart be cleansed. Let every old bruise finally breathe. Let the tears that fall now become healing waters, not wounds reopening. Replace heaviness with lightness. Replace suspicion with discernment. Replace self-doubt with divine confidence. Replace the ache of, "Why wasn't I enough?" with the truth of, "I was always chosen." But now, Lord, now we bring every word, every tear, every breath of this prayer into your courts, and we seal it. It is done, it is established, it is sealed in the courts of heaven, not by emotion, not by effort, but by your authority, your mercy, and your unstoppable love for this chosen one. And, beloved, as you breathe in this final moment of sacred stillness, listen closely, subscribe to stay connected to this flow, and to make sure you never miss the next instruction heaven sends your way. This isn't about growing a channel. This is about ensuring your spirit remains aligned with the voice that has been guiding you through every season you thought you faced alone. Now, if this prayer touched you, if something in your spirit shifted, if you felt God draw near, even for a moment, there is a sacred way to mark this moment. Not as a transaction, not as payment, but as a stone of remembrance, a personal marker in your journey with God. In Scripture, when God moved, His people placed a stone to say, "This is where something changed." If you feel led, use the super thanks as your own stone, a symbolic act to say, "God spoke to me here, something opened here. I honor this moment." Let it be your quiet declaration that tonight was holy. And now, chosen one, walk gently back into your life. Something in you is different. Something in you is stronger. Something in you is awake. You are stepping into the chapter heaven wrote with joy. You are walking into your destiny. And God is moving.